And hello there and welcome to Codebase Alpha. We're now live, a bit later than I'd hoped. I posted a message up in Discord some time ago saying it'd be 5 minutes, but unfortunately my microphone's stand, my arm of my microphone has been causing me a few issues. So I've had to try and clamp it with I've got a kind of bevel on the end of my desk here I'm working on, and it's not clamping properly onto it. So I've used a coaster to kind of wedge it in, and hopefully that'll hold it in place. I've now got the microphone much closer to my mouth and a pop filter in place. So if you can report back anyone who's in the chat on the quality of the audio, any kind of clipping or muffling or anything like that, I really appreciate the feedback. Okay, so this is episode 2, Codebase Alpha, broadcasting to you from Cygnus X1, which is a black hole somewhere in the universe, which we're broadcasting from just outside the event horizon. It's also known as just outside Birmingham. The stream last time looked at creating a web API, which is a fairly simple thing to do in .NET Core, but the main reason for actually investigating this was looking at authorization and authentication. And we decided to use JWT bearer tokens for that. And I put earlier, asked the bot a question about these bearer tokens. And if you're interested, there's a link in chat at the moment which is showing you some more information where you can get about these bearer tokens. But basically, they're a way of securely giving someone an identity, so that's authentication, so you know who they are, but also giving them claims, so what they can do. So it's a way of saying that that a person might be an ordinary user and they can have read access to certain aspects of our API, but then another person might be admin and they will have full write access as well to the API. So if we go with a quick tour of what we did last time, you can see that we have a launch controller here, which is basically what we're using to get some data. It's extremely simple at the moment. So the plan is that it will be linked to a database, and I've already prepared a SQL database with a bit of test data in, so that we can actually get some live stuff out of it. The controller itself, I've now decorated with this authorization attribute, saying that you have to be a member of the client role in order to access this this controller, so this endpoint. We'll refine that with some claims a bit later on, but just to remind you that in our token controller, which is where we create the actual bearer token, that we are currently giving all tokens the role of being a client. And these tokens, they have a lifetime between, not before now, and they expire in one day time. So 24-hour lifetime for the token, so that after every 24 hours you'd need to renew them. Okay, so what else can we show you? Yes, this is the data that we're bringing back. It's very simple, just five fields, and we're going to build that up a bit later on. The other thing I want to do with this API is in the next part of Codebase Alpha's programs, we're going to build an Alexa skill, and I will probably use the same web API for that, and it won't be authorized in that case. It will be one especially for use by the Alexa skills kit, which we're going to look at in a future episode. And then what I'm hoping to do with that is build something where you can ask Alexa when a streamer is going to be streaming next. So when is Codebase Alpha streaming next? When is Dev Chatter streaming next? What is Gareth Hubbell's streaming schedule? That kind of question you'll be able to ask, and it will give you a verbal answer. And then what we'll do is we'll create some pull requests for the Dev Chatter stream, and try and get that incorporated into the Dev Streams project that Brendan's working on over in that stream. Okay, so we're ready to get started, I think. So, as I said, what I've done already is I've decorated the launch controller with this role authorization, so that only clients, only tokens with the role of client can access it. And next, we just want to prove that that's actually the case. We start up the application here, and we go to our launch endpoint. And we'll go 1 because it doesn't, nothing comes back. Okay, so just to show that that actually is because we have the authorization in place, let's just go in and quickly move this. Remove it and run it up again, and then we'll revisit that link and we get our data back. There's our launch data, so you can see that we are using that authorization there to prevent access. Stop the application and put that back in place. Okay, so do tell me if you're getting any muffle or clipping from the audio. I'm just going to move this arm a bit closer, and also if you're getting any pop, because I have got a pop filter in place and I want to make sure that's actually effective. Okay, so what we need to do to work with this is to actually create a test client. So I've already brought in a .NET Core console application here, and here's the program file. So what I want to do first is to actually define a couple of variables which are going to hold the endpoints that we're interested in. So first we have the token endpoint. I can spell token, that would be net down end. One of the things that's really interesting about streaming is how you're typing just goes out the wall. Yeah, I think it's probably the same when you're doing code reviews over live share. So let's just grab the URL from here, which is that back host rather than localhost, and then our token endpoint, if you remember, lived at just /token, and that's where we're going to go and request a bearer token from. The next endpoint we need is obviously our API endpoint. And if we just at the launch endpoint, because it's our launch API, we're going to pop that in. And what I'll do is I'll actually hard code the ID as well. So it's going to go launch 1, because at the moment there's actually no real data coming back. It's just test data. So those are our endpoints. So we need to then start up a HTTP client. So I'm just going to wrap that in a try catch. So what we're going to have to do is we need to supply username and password to get a token. So let's do that part of it. So we need basically a user object to send through. So if I go over to Swagger, run the application up again, and we'll go over to Swagger and have a look at what Swagger's showing us. Come on, starting up. Okay, if we go to /Swagger, then here's our token endpoint, and you see we've got a HTTP post sitting on the end of that, listening out, and it's looking for a user, and it's basically just it's not telling us an awful lot about what's inside there. I guess we don't really want to tell people too much about what's inside the user object. So what I can do here is that we can do a try it out, and I can say username SMB and password. Test, and if we execute that, you can see we do get a bearer token back in the response body. So basically we're going to create this kind of model. We're going to send this through as JSON. Let's actually do that in code. So we're going to need to create a new, it's basically going to be a, oops, stop before we try to run. Okay, so we're going to create a dictionary of strings, string, basically what the object was. So string, and we just create a fake one basically. At the moment we're not doing any validation of usernames or passwords or anything like that. All we're going to do is populate test data. As you can see, when I just made up the SMB test as password, I'm going to do something similar. Username, B, and password. So writing JSON here, and that's not common. Okay. I've gotten the new keyword. So yeah, my development skills are actually smart. So what's it asking about now? iOS, we need to bring. So that's our user object, and we need to serialize that. But what we'll do is we'll serialize that within the try catch. So we call that user JSON, and we're going to serialize it. So I'm going to do a JSON convert on that, and we're going to need to actually bring in JSON package for that. So we're going to go off to the NuGet packages, NuGet.org. We're going to browse for Newtonsoft, possibly one of the most well-used, popular packages out there. JSON. So what's that? 190 million. So it's even gone up since the last time we used it. Okay, so that's in. So let's bring that package in with the using. That's it. Up there. So now we want to serialize. Serialize object, and it's we call it user. JSON. Okay. So we're going to want a HTTP client we can create. So let's create one of those. But no, I don't want to do. We want to use HB and we want to create a new one of these. Right. So we're going to send a post request off now to the client. So let's get a response back from that. It's going to be our bearer token. we're going to get a response. From the client, and we're going to do a post async on that. So we're going to post some information across to the client, and we're going to send it to the token endpoint, which is here. And we're going to send some content in the body. And how we can do that, we can basically use string content here. And it's going to be our user JSON. And we're going to just make sure it's encoded as JSON. So if we use encoding F8, and we capital E for encoding there, and we just make sure it's going to be application slash exactly what we've got, a package in here which is text, which has the encoding in it, and I need to capitalize the UTF. Okay. And so that's going to post that through, but what we're going to do, it's an async, but we're just going to bring it straight back. So let's get the result back. Interesting. Patch posting. So if you do spot me making any of these mistakes, give me a shout out in chat. It's still not happy about this. I've got a missing close bracket there. So one of the interesting things about this, when you do stream, is that the brain goes a bit to mush sometimes. So anyone can spot what the error is here, be very grateful. So I'm posting async. And I want the result back. Am I missing another one of these? Oh, I've missed. Some lines here so I can see what's going on. Saying that I can't be used like a method. Oh, I don't want. Losing my mind here. Sorry about that, folks. Do shout at. Yes, thank you, Fishing Dev. Yes, I eventually realised what I'd done wrong. Okay, so we've got our response back. Basically, we need to check what the is. So we're going to get in our response, we're going to get a status code. We want to make sure we get a good status code. HTTP response and its code. That is OK. Then we will have our token. But currently, we won't get a bad request because it will accept anything we send across. We will handle that in the fullness of time. So we now need to recover our bearer token from the HTTP response body that's come back to us. So let's stick it in a token variable. And we've got our response. And we can get the content of that, and we want to read it. And we'll do a read read a string, and just get the result straight back. Okay, so now we've got our token, and what we can do is we can do a console line, and we can say have but that's actually okay. But what we need to do next is actually request some data from the API. So as long as we've got our token, what we'll do in reality is probably store that token away in persistent storage somewhere, and then we can recover it for future calls in a proper client, and then refresh it after the refresh period, which is 24-hour refresh period that we set on the token. Okay, Efficient Dev, can you just give me a quick audio report? Is the audio clear? Am I clipping? What's the verdict on the audio? I'm trying to hold the mic a lot closer now to my mouth. I believe this is quite a good microphone I'm using, but it does need to be very close. So I would like any reports you have about the quality. If it's quiet, it's good, is it? Good and clear. Thank you very much, Fishing Jeff. That's good to know. Okay, so let's use our token now to actually make a request to the endpoint, the launch endpoint, and just get some data back and display it on the screen. And that's basically going to be the extent of our test client. But what we will do then is build up some more functionality to look at any errors that could come back in terms of authentication or authorization. So if we're not authorized to access the endpoint, then we get on the screen when we run the test client. Okay, so on the client, we want to set we want to put our token into the request headers, in the authorization headers. So if we just type client and then look, we can see here on the options that are available to us, we've got default request headers, so that's pretty good. And then there's an authorization header, so that's where we're going to put our token. The kind of thing we put in there is an authentication header value. So we need to create a new one of those. Authentication header, so there we are, authentication header value. So let's actually just shorten this, grab this, like you're using it. So we don't have to have that long text. A new line, and this is going to be a bearer, and we're going to put our token in there. This is like a key value pair for the bearer, and we've got token insert, comma there. So that's our header set up. What we need to do now is to actually go and call the API. So we'll just do a right line. And just write out to the screen. And then we're going to actually make the call. So we're going to get something back. We get some JSON back from the API if everything goes well. So that's going to be our result JSON. And so we're going to get that from the client, and we're going to make a get async. So this is a get call, remember, and this is going to be a get call to our launch endpoint, which is over here. Okay, and we're going to then get the result back from that asynchronous call. So I'm just basically turning these into synchronous calls. Because it's a test client, I'm not worried about the UI threads being reused. We just want to get the data back. Okay, so it was a little quiet before I asked. Okay, so I'm keep continually kind of adjusting this microphone. I do kind of turn my head away from the microphone a bit sometimes. So that's probably why it does actually go a bit quiet on the audio. But thank you for continuous reports, Fishing Dev. It's a work in progress, the audio setup on this. So yeah. Where was I? Okay, so we got our result back. So what we need to do is have a look. In a similar way, we need to interrogate the response code, status code that came back on that. So let's have a look if the results code code that did appear, didn't we? At the moment, we're not going to look for. In fact, what we can do here, now what we'll do is we'll do a switch statement, I think, because we can get several different possible codes back. Let's turn it into yeah. Okay, if we get our OK back, then what we need to do is simply print out the contents. Let's go and let's actually get launch details from the return. That's living in the result. And if you see for content, you get the content there, and we actually want to read the content. So we're going to read the string again. So we're not really interested in these things asynchronously. Okay, so break in. As a result, and then we're going to. I'll put the break in just. And we want to say to print out to the console that we've got a launch console.writeLine launch details retrieved. And I guess what we can do is simply print them out. So what we'll do is just put it out here. So let's do this bit of string interpolation. Probably won't look pretty good, but all we care about at the moment is seeing some results back. So what else could we get from this call? We could get an unauthorized HTTP status code of unauthorized. I guess we could get that. If we get that, then we simply want to report back to the console that that's the result we got. Click there, and could get a forbidden. Yes. Let's catch the forbidden status code that could come back. Okay. And the other thing, if we didn't get our token, so at the end of this if statement, then we're going to want to say else, just to report back any errors we have. Under console, right line, and the response if we fail to pick up our token would be a bad request. From the token endpoint. Okay. So just to go through it again, we're setting up our username and password here. Currently, it's irrelevant, but we are going to, if we pass this in there, we should get a bearer token back. We're going to send that as in the body of the post request as JSON. We should get an OK response back from that. We extract the token from the content that comes back, and we reuse that token in the authorization headers when we make API calls to these endpoints. That's what we're doing here. Okay, well let's give it a go. So let's run up the API site first. Okay, there we go. So if we go here and once again, if we hit launch, we get nothing back. Let's have a try with our client. Start this up in debug mode. We've missed a trick here. I forgot to put a read line at the bottom here, so let's stop it all running. Console read line, just so we can see the actual output. Oops. Try that again. Come on, come on, come on. There we are. Okay. Back here, and we'll run our test client. Oh, we got an unauthorized. That's interesting, isn't it? We got the bearer token, but we got an unauthorized. I wonder why that happened. What did we write as a code? Stop it all. So interesting. This is the kind of thing we write test clients for. So token gives us a role of client, and on our launch we should be in the role of client. Okay, we've missed a trick somewhere. So what have I missed? Just check my notes, because as this is some first streams, I had made a few notes about the process, jotted down a few things about how this actually should work. So I want to just get my notes. So did we set information? That's what we haven't done. We haven't set an authorization up. Is that right? We've added authentication. We haven't added authorization. How to run. So if you just joined the stream, welcome. This is Codebase Alpha. It's episode number 2. It's going to be a mini stream today, not quite as long as the previous one. Just wanted to stream again in the same week to make sure that my kit is performing and get some reports on the audio from you guys, and also just to progress the project a little bit further. Run the test client this time and see what we get. As I was saying earlier, unauthorized still. Okay. Right. If anyone's got any clues out there, do shout out. How did authorization in? What's to do? What I need to, we're not using any policies. Authentication. Adding it above the authentication. I'm moving it. The authentication. Not sure that actually. Now, when we go into actually using the claims, we will want to add our authorization policies into this statement here. But I didn't think we would need them for roles. Give this another go. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with it though. So I think what we might do is move on to get actually creating some claims. Because this isn't really the end point we want to get to. We want to get to a point where we're actually sending claims through, say, read access, write access, whatever. And so the role thing is really a bit of an extra, which we're just using for testing. So let's start up our test client again, and we'll probably get another unauthorized, in which case I'll just move on because, as I say, it's not really the goal yet. The role as being here. So get that. Create some roles. Okay. Right. So what we'll do is we'll add to our user object. So let's have a look over in the test client. Right over here, and we're going to add an extra. So at some point what we'll do is move a lot of this information into the app settings, just because that's how we'll model it being in a database. But just to start off with, let's not do that. Let's just have to have these claims living inside the user object. So there's the claim. Okay. So over in our token controller, what we need to do is to extract the claims and actually from the user object, and then actually put those into our token. I'm just going to put a be right back screen up for 1 second here, because I need to turn the lights on in my room because it's getting rather quite dark. So just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So the lights are on. I can actually see my keyboard now. This is what was causing a few problems. Not actually being able to see is not great. Okay, so yes, what we need to do is actually get those claims and put them into the token. So let's do that now. So So we're passing into the generate token, we're passing the username, and we want to pass string of claims as well. And we'll get the claims out of our user object, which gets passed over. And we'll send those claims in with the username there into the generate token. We can't use claims. Okay, so the user claims being passed in, and what we need to do is actually add those in to this list of claims here. So what we can do is, as we're passing a simple claim in at the moment, this is a read-only claim. What did I call it? Read-only? Yeah, read. Token controller, what we can do is to add a new claim. So maybe we want to send in a comma separated string of claims. Maybe that's the best thing. So let's make this let's make and then claims here. The claims is going to be split on that on dark, but that wasn't dark, that was just me mistyping. There. Oops. So we've got our string array, and what we need to do now is to actually read that into the claims. We have our kind of ordinary claims here. These are the claims which come with the identity model we're using, and we're just going to add to those claims. We're going to add a range basically of claims into there. So this is called user claims, and we want to do a bit of link on this. I think select claim from that. And what we'll do is we'll put a trim on the air, so it doesn't matter if someone puts spaces in the commas. Okay, so that's saying that the claim is true. You have when we have these claims, they're this is a user-defined claim basically. So it's going to be a claim of read-only is true, or full access is true. Basically, that's how it's going to work. And then we're going to build the rest of the client in exactly the same way. So that's our claim. And what we need to do now is to change this. We no longer want to protect or authorize our controller based on roles. We want to control access based upon the claim that we're creating. In this case, the read-only claim. In order to do that, we need to use what's called authorization policies. And authorization policies are what we defined back in the startup class. When I added that add authorization, I said that when we come to do the policies, that's where we put it. So let's put it there now. Add authorization is here. So once again, as is common with these these service configuration methods, we have a set of options we can do. So we're going to add a policy, and the policy is going to be read access. That's read only, wasn't it? The name of the policy, and we need to configure that policy. And we need to say that in order to have it to satisfy this policy, you've got to have the read-only claim. So once again, this is another configuration lambdas policy dot yes. So add. We're going to require claim into our require claim, and the claim we require is the read-only claim. Okay, and we can add another. Add another one to this. Now we need to close off. Oh, we're missing bracket up. That one. That one. And yep, so add policy again. Ooh, that there. Those is. What do we need? Do we? Yes, going on there. Closed off the whole thing. So it should end there. So in here we got this. Okay. Fine. Oh, and then we want the one that to let us do an add policy to that. Can anyone see the mistake I've made here? Can't. Derp. Read only. Yes, that's what I want there. Add policy read only. Then the policy goes to require claim and the name of the policy. Close that bracket off. There. Seems. Oh, derp. So there we go. That's our curly braces out. Better. Now we can do the second policy, which is going to be admin. Have an admin policy, which means we'll be able to date a bit from. So let's once again define that policy. The policy is we require an admin claim. Okay, so we can close that one off. There's that. That's our authentication authorization policy set up. So let's go back over to here and we'll say rather than roles policy. and that policy's got to be only case. Okay, so what we'll do then is the whole control has been governed by that policy at the moment, so only people with that policy can get in there. But of course, it's only a test endpoint at the moment. What we'll do eventually is to build it out so that these authorization policies apply to particular methods, and only people with admin will get access to the post methods, which will actually update the database. I do have a little database I'm putting together so we can actually have better data than, but not really the point of the stream is looking at this authorization using the bearer tokens, the main kind of focus them. Let's run this up and see if we have any better luck than we did with our role-based authorization. Start our test client. Oh, unauthorized again. So I'm obviously not doing this correctly. So let's step through our test client to see where we're going. So here's our test client. I called it claims. Is that right? Is that what we pulled out in the token controller? Claims, yes. So stick a breakpoint here, and we'll also breakpoint in here, and we'll run step through and see what's going on. Okay, we're in our test client. We have our little dictionary here with the data in, as you can see. Make sure we are actually going to serialize that correctly. That looks fine. I'm going to push that off to the token controller. We just dropped into the token controller. Here we got our claim, single claim of read only, and we're going to go into the generate token. Let's step into there. I'm using the mouse to do this because I just want to make sure that anyone who's not really used Visual Studio before can see that I'm up here. I'm not using any control keys or shortcuts. I just want to make sure that if you are starting out in your development career, that you're not going to be bamboozled by having all these magic strings and magic keyboard shortcuts you're going to press. Bear with me on that one. So now we're going to add our claims in. So let's have a look at claims. We've got 5 claims. We've got read only true as a claim. We've got expiry dates and our name, SMB, and our role as a client. So that seems to be working okay. So we're going to create our token. That looks like a token. And we're going to return that, and we're going to pop back here. Now we've got the unauthorized message again. So we know that our token's being created correctly. So this time we're going to run this again, and this time we're not going to step into the. Let's move that breakpoint. We're pretty happy that that's working okay. And what I'll do is just run the test client again. There, so let's client. Okay, so we've got a status code OK back, and we're going to read our token out of that. Grab the token. Here it is. I'm going to put the token into the headers here for the API. Let's step into that, shall we? Go and put. We'll go and step it. So we did get the 401 back. So I'm slightly confused now. This is wonderful on stream, isn't it, to run into a problem like that. So we're not actually getting our authentication. We're getting authentication okay, our authorization's not quite working. Okay, so let's have a stop this. Back on the startup. So we've set up our authentication here in the configure services. We know this is working. We've tested all this before. Oh, have I added it in the wrong place? No, it's okay. There's our policies. Authorization policies are here. Okay, so we're going down. Looks. Try moving this again, I suppose. Below the authentication. Not sure. Relevant. Services to add authorization. Can anyone offer me a clue? Because looking all right to me. Looking okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and we're not taking any notice of our authorized policy. Just throwing us out straight away. Check through the notes I've got because I'm pretty sure this is all correct. Only, and that's the policy we've set up, and that's the policy we've got back in the program here in the startup run. We've got our read-only policy here, and it's a read-only there. Read-only. Get them read-only. Getting our claim out here. Test client with claim of read-only. Spelt correctly. Let's bring this policy right to the top. I don't know if the order is having any effect. Right at the. And what we can do here is also we can show that this can produce 401. Produces response type 401. That's certainly not going to fix any issues, but give it a run and see what happens. What I'm going to do actually, I'm going to close down. Of our API. So I'm not hopeful because I don't think just swapping things around like that's going to affect. Now hit our breakpoint. All the API. Well, viewers, I'm slightly mystified. It's one of those dirt moments, I think, isn't it? So, it's time for the sand trombone. Yes, okay. Thank you very much for that. Debugging on the stream. Interesting task. Let's have a look, see if we can just eyeball this once more. Obviously made some rookie error here. And we need to figure out why. I wonder if I'm throwing it. It shouldn't be. We remove this authorization. Make that out. It up again just to make sure that our test client is actually doing anything at all. Right, so let's run it again. Yeah, so if we don't have our authorization on there, it works fine. So definitely something that I'm doing wrong by authorization. Authorize. And we've got an authorization policy. So let's Google. Let's get Google out and let's look at policies. So ASP.NET Core authorize policy. Docs deal. So there's our policy. We've added that. Okay, so startup configure services. They've done it after the MVC. Maybe that's it. Oh, let's put me try that. So I think I'm doing all this before the MVC. No, add MVC is first. So let's just go back and check what it's saying. So add MVC and then add authorization, then the options for add the policy. Yes. And then decorate the class with authorized policy. And we've got this in there, authorization. Okay. So that looks okay. Fine, doesn't it? What is going on? 7 viewers. Thank you very much for everyone who's dropped in. I'm not going to go on too much longer. I would like to try and fix this on stream, but if I can't, I'll have it done for the next stream. I didn't quite expect to run into an issue like this. I guess who does? And it's slightly thrown me that, as far as I can tell, it all looks okay. It's certainly passing the claim in. I don't believe there's anything else we need to do other than we're doing. Certainly doesn't seem to disagree with me. So we register authorization policies as part of the startup bigger services. They're doing it after add MVC, and so are we. Okay. And we're using the compatibility version 2. We're using .NET Core 2.2 with the latest build of that. And then over in our configure method, yes. Yes, I think I'm missing something here. Yeah, I think we need to actually use authentication here, and we need to make sure that's before we use the MVC. I wonder if that's going to be. And quickly get back here. We've got our read-only authorization policy back in place. Let's run it up and see if just doing that is going to help us out. Still stable, welcome. You're going over the top as usual, but .NET Core 3 Intrinsics is the most exciting thing for me since Link. So tell us all about Intrinsics in .NET Core 3.0, Fuel Stable. I know that M-Range or Mr. Angry, I can't remember what his proper name is, over on Gareth's Discord was enthusing about Intrinsics. So you could expand on your comment and tell us what that's all about. It'd be very interesting. So let's give this another run. Everyone keep their fingers crossed that this is going to actually produce the result we want. So there we are, we've got it. So just that. Use authentication in the configure method. Oh, it's your alias. I didn't realise that, Fuel Stable. Yeah, you're talking to yourself, yeah. Right, okay, so that explains a lot. So I don't really see you in the Discords, but if you're, and is it Mr. Angry, Mr. Ange? How do we actually say that? Could you give us a clue, please? Okay, so that's actually working. So we can get. So I've just run about 4 minutes over my expected stream time for today. I'm going to pretty much close it there. We've only gone forward a little bit from where we were last time. We do have the authentication and authorization features in place now, though. And we have a test client where we've proven that happens. What I'd like to do next is to wire up a database to the API, so we get a book all information back, and we can start playing with that. And also maybe we will have a post. Your name is Range, M-Range. Right, I'll explain. So M-Range, thank you very much for explaining that, Fuel Stable. I'll remember that in future. It looks very similar to Mr. Angry, and I was just wondering if you were angry about .NET and angry about all kinds of things that developers get bees in our bonnets about, and it's all very interesting to go backwards and forwards about a lot of these things, see people's different views. Okay, so thank you very much for those people who have bore with me through a boring part of trying to find a problem. That problem, just in case you didn't catch it, was we weren't actually using authentication as part of our configure here. So when we were using our MVC, it wasn't actually taking any notice. Even though all of our bearer tokens were being created correctly, we were passing them back in the request headers, in the authorization header and the requests. All that was actually working. It just wasn't bothering to actually interrogate them and use them. Okay, thank you everyone who's viewed today. There will be another Codebase Alpha stream at some point in the very near future. I don't have an exact date yet. I'm still settling in on a routine. I need to make time when my wife is not here and my granddaughter's not here. We can't actually possibly stream with them in the house because it would be completely intolerable for them to listen to me droning on, and also my granddaughter would be pulling on the mic and making kinds of squealy noises and interrupting me and twirling me around in my in my chair, which she loves to do while I'm sitting at this desk. So I do appreciate everyone who's dropped in. I shall be seeing you soon, and take care, everyone. Happy coding.